welcome to this tutorial that I'm about to give you on, it's sort of a crash course on two things. First on how to use ArcGIS, and second on how to do the crash mapping for your project. So I'm just going to open up your syllabus, and under data collection, part of it is collecting traffic crashes, and the second part will be making a collision diagram and crash pattern analysis. So in this video I'll try to give you the tools that you need to do that. So first of all, I'll have attached what we call a shapefile. It's 8 separate extensions that build a geographic file, and I'm not going to go into what each of these different extensions mean, but I'll just tell you they can be opened in a program called ArcMap. So you can just, on all the computers in Town Engineering, they will have ArcMap installed. It will probably be a different edition, so it might look slightly different. I believe off of 10.2.1 they'll work off of Windows 7 framework. Okay, it probably will look the same as this. So we just have a blank map here. What we can do is take this file that has the .shp extension, and we can go and drag that into the map. And what this is a list of the crashes between 2010 and 2014 just for the city of Ames. And you can see some of them are coded incorrectly, but you can just go here and click up on the plus sign and zoom. And now it looks a little bit like Ames. We can give it a base map up at this plus sign. Go and click add base map. Go to imagery and click add. I have to apologize for the loudness behind me. I know that I'm probably getting a lot of feedback from the air conditioning. But we'll just wait for this base map to load. It comes from Bing Maps, so it might not be as update or high definition as Google Maps, but it at least gives the idea of the city of Ames. So for this particular project, I think we'll go ahead and analyze the intersection of State and Mortensen, because that's what I did when I took this class last year, and I already have a crash diagram already made for that. So looks like we'll just see this load. State and Mortensen is right down here, and of course when you're doing your project you'll do your own intersection. So I'll just zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so this is the intersection. For this project you can probably use a distance from the intersection for crashes to be included in your analysis. That distance should be about 150 feet. That's a pretty standard value. Some regions or organizations might use a different value. You can use this tool, the measure tool. You could click right in the center of your intersection, and it may or may not be in feet. I think the default is meters. If you need to change it, you can go to choose units, distance, and then just go down to feet. So it looks like that's almost 150 feet. So we will just include that in our analysis. And each of these points has a geographic location, which is why it renders on the map in this place, but it also has some tabular attributes. So I'll just use this tool, which we call the identify tool, and I just pulled up a table of data about it, and I will go ahead and explain which of these you need to know for the project, but we'll just leave that for now. So I want to select this and put them into a separate file. I'll show you all of the crashes. I'll right click. What I'm doing is right clicking on my crashes and going to open attribute table. And you can see I've got 4,749 crashes, which is clearly too many to analyze. So in order to select it, what I'll have to do is right click on this again, go down to edit features and do start editing, and it will pull up a toolbar. I'll just dock that in the top up here, and there's this edit tool, and I can actually select these and it shows me down here I've got 10 selected. So clearly there must be some that are right on top of each other. I can change the view so I'm only looking at selected, and I think I'm going to want to use this data set, and I want to export it so I can open it in Windows Excel. And there's several ways to do this. The way that I would prefer to do it is by right-clicking on this, and I'm going to go to Selection and Create Layer from Selected Features. And the reason why I do this is because I can only export when I'm not in editing mode. So I'll have to do Stop Editing. And now I can right-click on this, and actually we're good. I'll turn off the All Aims Crashes layer and scroll out a little bit. Wait for the base map to load, and you can see we only have the crashes for that intersection. Okay, I forgot. We still have to export that. I'll do that a little bit slower and explain what I'm doing. I'll right-click on that. The crash is just for that intersection. Go to Data, Export Data, and now I'll set my location to my folder. And I have this already mapped. I have a folder connection. When you're first starting it, what you will have to do is click this plus sign, go to Connect to Folder, and you'll have to navigate to wherever that folder is. For instance, mine is in the desktop. I hit OK, and I've already mapped my desktop. And then I can go inside of there and export to this folder. I'll just call it Mort and State Crash 2010 through 14. And I'll go to that folder, and yes, we have that file in here. So I'm going to minimize out of ArcMap for now. And now we have a lot of different files. The one that we want is this one with the extension called DBF, and this one is the sort of the tabular data, and it can be opened in Windows Excel, sort of similar to CSV format. And you can do that just by right-clicking and go Open With, and I have it up here. You may have to browse through your computer to find your wherever the location of the Microsoft Office is on your computer that you're using. But I'll just open that up, and now I have a nice Excel sheet to work with. And typically one of the first things that I'll do with this is there's a lot of data that sort of describes the location of the crash. I'm just going to start indiscriminately deleting some of these. So now I'm down to a little bit more of the crashes that I'm intend to use. Okay. Make that small. I'm just doing this so I can see a little bit more of the information all at the same time. And sort of probably the most important fields that we are going to look at is going to be CRCO manner, crash collision manner, and it has a number, typically 1 to 10. And in order to interpret this, we have to go to a table, which I will attach as well, and that's right. Okay, it's right here, revised code sheet, and this is the sheet that they use when the police officers are doing a crash report. And this first page is information about the driver and vehicle, which we're not interested in. We're really looking at the second page. And we're looking at crash collision manner. Okay, so we've got 1 is non-collision, 2 is head-on, 3 rear end, 4 angle, 5 broadside, side sweep, same, side sweep opposite, and I'll go ahead and explain some of those a little bit later. But we can see right here we've got a 4, that's an angle, oncoming left, a 3, rear end, rear end, rear end. It looks like the most common crash type here is rear end. As well, if you're interested in some of the other crash manners, this major cause relates to this field right here, harmful events. So we can see this one is a 19. That was... okay, actually this might not be the correct table. There's many different fields that are available, and I may have not given you the table that includes major cause, but that's okay, because this is the important one right here, crash collision manner. So with this information, we can then go and open the diagram template, which is a PPT, and this will give you a blank map. You can change the street names, change the title, and it'll give you a legend for what kind of different crashes. So it asks on what leg of the approach was it, and what kind of crash was it. So we'll look at this first one. It was a 4, which we go to our code sheet, and that is going to be angle, oncoming left turn. And if we look at the direction, we'll just scroll over here, and it looks like it does not have a direction. Unfortunately, it should be here. It should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, which is unfortunate that none of those have directions. And yeah, I can't explain why it doesn't. I can do some research into that later. But let's say it was a rear-end collision. I'll just copy that and say it was on vehicles that were eastbound before they go through the intersection. So I can go and put a crash right here. As well, we can look at this list and see crash collision manner, and there's a 5, which is, I believe, broadside. Yes, 5 is broadside. And if we knew the direction, which we can hopefully find for you, say it was a vehicle going northbound colliding with a vehicle going eastbound, we could place it here. And let's say there's several of them. All we can do is just sort of stack them right on top of each other. And pretty soon we have a diagram like this one right here. As well, there's additional option for if there was an injury or fatality during that crash. You can find that information about the injury fatality right over here. If you scroll to the right, it has the different injury, major injury, minor injury, possible injury, and for the sake of this analysis you could just group just group those different classifications of injuries into just this kind of injury. So for instance, for this crash, you would put one of these dots. Okay, this is not my PowerPoint. Okay, so we got that. Sometimes they can be a little bit hard to grab. And I just... okay. Move that up there. Okay, so this would be a broadside with a northbound vehicle colliding with an eastbound vehicle, and there's an injury. So this is a pretty useful diagram for interpreting what kind of crashes are occurring at an intersection, and you can use this to sort of determine the relative safety of the intersection, and you can ask questions that would a roundabout improve safety for this intersection or not. Finally, one thing that you can do is you could even create a map. In fact, for this intersection, there's not really any need to have a map of locations because they were all coded as being essentially just in a point to the intersection, so it's not really important to have one. However, if you wanted to make a map, you could go and click down here on Layout View, and you could change the layout if you wanted to scroll over to Letter Landscape. And then I can go to Insert, Data Frame. Okay, never mind, I don't want that. And actually, when I just inserted this template, it gave me a lot of the standard information that I would want. It gave me, just wait for that to load, a title. We can go and change this to, and we could even change the color so it's a little more visible. We could change it to white. And now we've got a legend down here, a scale bar, and we could actually right click on that, change it to feet, and change the number of subdivisions to 2. We could change the style to something different, alternating scale bar. I'm not sure why I'd want that text. And this is loading very slow. I've got a legend here. I can change what's in my legend. I think the only thing I want is the Ames, Mortensen, state crashes. And I can actually divide these up by color, so I can right click on that and I can say I want crashes with a different collision manner to have a different color. So I'll go into here to categories, go down to object ID, crash collision manner, and I'll click on add all values. So now I've got 3, 4, and 5. I'll right click on it and change properties for all symbols. I'll change the size to 9. And colors are fine. I'll change the label values. 3 was rear end, 5 was broadside, and 4 was, we'll just go ahead and double check that, 5 is angle oncoming left turn. And okay. And unfortunately all of those were stacked on top of each other. Okay, so it looks like I've got an additional field for all other values. I'll go back there and uncheck that. So now my legend is a little bit cleaner. And there's a number of other things I can change. That's in miles. I can change it to feet. But then I can go ahead and save this map. I can go to File, Export Map, go to my file, save it as a PDF, 300 dpi is okay. Crash map, save it. And there's my map. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Otherwise, I think we'll call that the end of this tutorial. Thanks for listening.